So I researched the conventional soundtracks for the post-apocalyptic genre and found that conventions included like building up to create suspense and tension, like in Book of Eli's trailer. So to do the same thing, I used GarageBand and found a lot of different instruments. Like the first one that I used was a really eerie note, which I just held for a minute because it was like that was the length of our trailer. So it would form a bass for it, and then I included things like slow piano notes to add a bit of suspense, and a little bit of a drum beat, and then halfway through that I added like strings and cymbals and bass sounds that like sound really loud and quite intense. And then the last bit that I used was I stopped using all those instruments and then just added a loud booming bass note, so it sounded like really powerful, you know, and really suit the genre.
Props are a major factor within the production of this genre. For the use of weapons, which can be either unique with their simplistic uses like a wooden plank or to something like a gun, there is logic that must be applied to the situation. Since it would be impractical and illogical for our production to take place many years after the mass production of guns and bullets, so the characters would use simple weapons like bows and arrows as well as rusted knives. I looked at the typical conventions when it came to props in this genre and found from TV shows like The Walking Dead,
I'm just getting started.
films like Mad Max, and the game The Last of Us, that blunt objects were heavily used as weapons more so than guns, as they were just for show and used as more threatening means, which we have in one scene where there is a point of view and an out of focus shot of a gun being pointed at the camera. This is more dramatic and suspenseful than a blunt object, since the trigger could be pulled any minute, other than a weapon in which you would need to use force to swing and take out the opposition. Unlike the show The Walking Dead and the game The Last of Us, we show no actual gore inside of our teaser trailer, which challenges the forms and conventions. That is it. That's all I need to say.
So when we were looking at our locations, I looked at different contemporary media for inspiration for location in being conventionally accurate for our genre, because we do the apocalyptic genre. I started my research looking into films like the Maze Runner franchise and the Scorched Trials, which came out in 2015, and the 2015 film Mad Max, both of which I felt mirrored our narrative, as they were both set in a dried out, scorched out world. And this was conventionally accurate for the apocalyptic film, as I felt it offered a sense of isolation and danger through the imagery of our abandoned world. In conformity to the convention, I researched places in England that we could use that had this kind of scorched out look, and luckily I found a place called Dungeness, which is known as Britain's only desert. But because we couldn't rely on CGI and stuff, it was perfect because it gave us a massive outstretch of location that we could just use. And it offered us to have shots of abandoned buildings and that are torn down and rusted boats, conforming to the conventions of an apocalyptic film.
So the narrative is significant in conveying the genre and the concept of the film. We were working with a restricted narrative, as did all of our teaser trailer deconstructions. And from my narrative deconstruction of Morgan and my title deconstruction of The Last Survivor, 28 Days Later and I Am Legend, I found that the narrative in post-apocalyptic and dystopian movie trailers often open with a shot of a serene setting, and that conveys a sense of normality. This is used to build up the enigmatic plot surrounding the film, which reflects the tone of uncertainty in post-apocalyptic films. However, we have used an all-female cast, and for our teaser trailer, we subverted the conventions of post-apocalyptic genre, which usually has at least one male protagonist or antagonist.